For God's sake, Richard, how much more do I have to endure? I slammed my palm on the kitchen counter, the sting barely registering through my anger. Your mother's behavior is beyond appalling, and you just stand there like a statue. Richard's face remained impassive, his blue eyes cold as ice. Amelia, we've been through this. Mother means well. She's just protective. I let out a bitter laugh. Protective? Is that what you call it when she accidentally spilled red wine on my wedding dress? Or when she told all our friends I was infertile? You're exaggerating, Richard mumbled, his gaze fixed on the floor. Am I? What about last Thanksgiving when she… Enough! Richard's voice boomed, startling me. I won't hear another word against my mother. She raised me, Amelia. She deserves our respect. I stared at him, disbelief etched on my face. And what about me, Richard? What do I deserve? The silence that followed was deafening. I watched as my husband of 15 years turned away, reaching for his car keys. I'm going to be late for work, he muttered. As the front door slammed shut, I sank into a kitchen chair, my head in my hands. How had it come to this? I thought back to the day I first met Clara, Richard's mother. She'd smiled at me, all teeth and no warmth, her eyes assessing me like I was a piece of meat at the butcher's. So, you're the girl who's ensnared my Richard, she'd said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. I do hope you're not after his money, dear. We have ways of dealing with gold diggers. I should have run then, should have seen the writing on the wall. But I was young and in love, convinced that Richard and I could weather any storm together. How wrong I'd been. The sound of my phone ringing jolted me from my reverie. It was my mother, Ella. Honey, are you all right? Her voice was warm, concerned. I tried calling earlier, but there was no answer. I swallowed hard, fighting back tears. I'm fine, Mom. Just another argument with Richard about Clara. Elesite. Oh, sweetheart. I wish I could make it better for you. Have you considered what we talked about last time? I knew what she meant. Leaving Richard had crossed my mind more times than I cared to admit. But the thought of starting over at 40 terrified me. I can't, Mom. Not yet. I still love him despite everything. Love shouldn't hurt this much, Amelia, Ella said softly. Your father and I. The mention of my late father sent a fresh wave of pain through me. I know, Mom. I know. After hanging up, I wandered into the living room, my eyes landing on a framed photo of Richard and me on our wedding day. We looked so happy, so full of hope for the future. Where had that couple gone? The doorbell rang, startling me. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I opened the door, my heart sank. There stood Clara, impeccably dressed as always, a saccharine smile on her face. Amelia, darling, she cooed, pushing past me into the house. I hope I'm not interrupting anything important. I gritted my teeth, forcing a smile. Not at all, Clara. What brings you by? She settled herself on the couch, eyeing me critically. Well, I was in the neighborhood and thought I'd drop in to discuss the family reunion next month. I assume you and Richard will be attending. The family reunion. Of course. Another opportunity for Clara to belittle me in front of Richard's entire extended family. As I stood there, listening to Clara prattle on about seating arrangements and menu options, something inside me snapped. I'd had enough. It was time to take control of my life, with or without Richard by my side. Little did I know, the decision I was about to make would set in motion a chain of events that would change everything. The church was silent, save for the soft sobs echoing through the pews. I stood at the front, my hand resting on my father's casket, feeling as though a part of me had died with him. The weight of grief pressed down on my chest, making it hard to breathe. I glanced over at Richard, hoping to find some comfort in his presence. Instead, I saw him checking his watch, his face a mask of impatience. Clara sat beside him, her lips pursed in disapproval. Neither of them had spoken a word of condolence to me since the service began. As people began to file out, my mother approached, her eyes red-rimmed but determined. Amelia, sweetheart, she said softly, your father wanted me to give you something. I followed her to a quiet corner of the church, curiosity momentarily overriding my sorrow. Ella pulled an envelope from her purse, her hands trembling slightly as she handed it to me. "What is this?" I asked, turning the envelope over in my hands. "It's your inheritance, dear," Ella replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "Your father left you $2 million. I stared at her in disbelief, my mind struggling to process her words. $2 million? But why didn't he tell me? Ella smiled sadly. He wanted it to be a surprise. He always said you deserved a chance at true happiness. As the reality of the situation sank in, I felt a mix of emotions wash over me: grief, gratitude, and a sudden, overwhelming sense of possibility. For the first time in years, I saw a glimmer of hope for my future. My reverie was interrupted by Clara's shrill voice. "Amelia, darling, we really must be going. Richard has an important meeting this afternoon." I turned to see my mother-in-law standing nearby. Her eyes narrowed suspiciously. Had she overheard our conversation? I quickly tucked the envelope into my purse, forcing a neutral expression onto my face. "Of course, Clara," I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. "I just need a moment with my mother." Clara's lips thinned, but she nodded curtly and walked away. I turned back to Ella, who squeezed my hand reassuringly. "Don't let them push you around, sweetheart," she murmured. "Your father wanted you to be happy. Remember that." As we drove home, the car filled with an uncomfortable silence. Richard kept his eyes fixed on the road, while Clara prattled on about some charity event she was planning. Neither of them seemed to notice or care about my grief. "By the way, Amelia," Clara said suddenly, her tone deceptively casual, "I couldn't help but overhear your conversation with your mother. Something about an inheritance." I felt my body tense, my grip tightening on my purse. "It's nothing, Clara. Just some personal matters." Clara's eyes gleamed with interest. "Oh, but families shouldn't keep secrets from each other. We're all so close, after all." I bit back a bitter laugh. Close. The only thing Clara was close to was her own self-interest. "I said it's nothing," I repeated firmly, meeting her gaze in the rearview mirror. Clara's smile faltered for a moment before returning, more forced than before. "Well, if you say so, dear. But remember, we're always here if you need advice on how to handle such matters." The implication in her words was clear. She wanted a piece of my inheritance, and I had no doubt she'd do whatever it took to get it. As we pulled into the driveway, I made a decision. This money was my ticket to freedom, a chance to escape the suffocating grip of Clara's control and Richard's indifference. But I would have to be careful. If they knew the full extent of my inheritance, they'd never let me go without a fight. I stepped out of the car, my mind racing with possibilities and plans. For the first time in years, I felt a surge of determination. My father's final gift had given me more than just money. It had given me hope. Little did I know, the battle for my inheritance and my freedom was only just beginning. I paced the living room, rehearsing the words in my head. The inheritance burned a hole in my pocket, a secret that could change everything. As I heard Richard's key in the lock, I steeled myself for the confrontation. "Richard, we need to talk," I said as he walked in, his tie already loosened. He sighed, dropping his briefcase. "Can't it wait, Amelia? I'm exhausted." "No, it can't." I took a deep breath. My father left me an inheritance. $2 million. Richard's eyes widened, a spark of interest replacing his usual indifference. $2 million? Are you serious? I nodded, hope blooming in my chest. "I think this could be our chance, Richard. We could finally break free from your mother's control. Start fresh, just the two of us." For a moment, I saw a flicker of the man I'd fallen in love with. But then his expression hardened. "We can't just leave, Amelia. Mother needs us." "She doesn't need us, Richard. She wants to control us." I reached for his hand, pleading. "Don't you see? This money could give us a new life." Richard pulled away, his jaw set. "You're right. This money could change everything." My heart soared, only to plummet with his next words. "We should give it to Mother." I stared at him, disbelief turning to anger. "What? No." This is my inheritance, Richard. My father left it to me. Mother could use it for her charities, Richard argued. Think of all the good it could do. And what about us? I shot back. What about our happiness? Richard's face clouded. Are you saying you're not happy, Amelia? How can I be? The words burst out of me. Your mother treats me like dirt, and you do nothing to stop her. This money is my chance to finally stand up for myself. You're being selfish, Richard snapped. Mother has given us everything. We owe her. I laughed bitterly. We owe her? What about what you owe me, Richard? I'm your wife. And she's my mother, Richard shouted, his face red. I won't let you use this money to drive a wedge between us. There's already a wedge, Richard, I said quietly. And it's shaped exactly like your mother. Richard's eyes narrowed. I won't discuss this anymore. The money goes to Mother. End of story. As he stormed out of the room, I felt something inside me break. The man I'd married was gone, replaced by a puppet dancing to Clara's tune. I sank onto the couch, my mind reeling. The next morning, I woke to find Richard already gone. A note on the kitchen counter made my blood run cold. Told Mother about the inheritance. She's thrilled. We're meeting with her lawyer this afternoon to discuss the transfer. Panic gripped me. They were trying to take my father's gift, the key to my freedom. I grabbed my phone, dialing with shaking fingers. Mom, I said when Ella answered. I need your help. Can you come over? An hour later, Ella sat beside me on the couch, her arm around my shoulders. Oh, sweetheart, she sighed after I'd explained everything. I'm so sorry. What are you going to do? I straightened my spine, a plan forming. I'm going to fight, Mom. This is my inheritance, my chance at happiness. I won't let them take it from me. Ella squeezed my hand. That's my girl. Your father would be proud. As we sat there strategizing, I heard a car pull into the driveway. Looking out the window, I saw Richard, Clara, and a man in a suit, presumably the lawyer. They're here, I said, my voice steady despite the fear churning in my stomach. Ella stood, her eyes flashing with determination. Then let's give them a fight they won't forget. As the front door opened, I squared my shoulders, ready for battle. This wasn't just about money anymore. It was about my life, my future, and I'd be damned if I'd let Clara or Richard take that away from me. The stage was set for a showdown, and I was finally ready to take center stage. The tension in the room was palpable as Richard, Clara, and the lawyer filed in. Ella squeezed my hand reassuringly before we stood to face them. What's she doing here? Clara hissed, glaring at my mother. I lifted my chin. She's here to support me. Now, what's this about transferring my inheritance? The lawyer, a balding man with beady eyes, cleared his throat. Mrs. Thompson, we're here to discuss the transfer of your inheritance to your mother-in-law, Clara Thompson. There will be no transfer, I said firmly. That money was left to me by my father. It's mine. Richard stepped forward, his face flushed with anger. Amelia, we've discussed this. The money goes to Mother. It's for the best. The best for whom, Richard? I shot back. For your mother's social standing? For her control over our lives? Clara's eyes narrowed. How dare you speak to us like this? After everything we've done for you. I laughed bitterly. Done for me? You've done nothing but tear me down since the day I married your son. The lawyer intervened, his voice oily. Perhaps we could discuss this calmly. Mrs. Thompson, surely you see the benefits of. No. I cut him off. I don't see any benefits to giving away my inheritance. And I won't do it. Richard's face contorted with rage. You will do as you're told, Amelia. I'm your husband, and I say the money goes to Mother. Something snapped inside me. Years of pent-up frustration and anger came pouring out. You're my husband? Since when, Richard? You haven't acted like a husband in years. You've been nothing but your mother's puppet. The room fell silent. Even Clara looked shocked at my outburst. Richard's voice was dangerously low when he spoke again. If that's how you feel, maybe we shouldn't be married anymore. My heart pounded, but I stood my ground. Maybe we shouldn't. With trembling hands, Richard reached into his briefcase and pulled out a folder. I had these drawn up just in case. Divorce papers, Amelia. Already signed by me. I stared at the papers, a mix of emotions swirling inside me. Shock, anger, and surprisingly relief. You'd divorce me over this? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. I'm giving you a choice, Richard replied coldly. Sign over the inheritance to Mother, or sign these papers. It's up to you. Clara smirked triumphantly. Come now, Amelia. Be reasonable. You know you can't survive without us. I looked at the smug faces around me. Richard's cold indifference, Clara's malicious glee, the lawyer's greedy anticipation. Then I turned to my mother, seeing the love and support in her eyes. In that moment, everything became crystal clear. I reached for the divorce papers, my hand steady. I'll take the divorce, Richard. Amelia, no. Ella gasped. But I felt calmer than I had in years. It's okay, Mom. This is my chance to be free. Richard's jaw dropped. You can't be serious. You're choosing divorce over family. I met his gaze squarely. I'm choosing myself, Richard. For the first time in our marriage, I'm putting myself first. Clara's face turned an alarming shade of red. You ungrateful little. That's enough. I cut her off. I'm done letting you control my life. Both of you. I signed the papers with a flourish, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders. There. It's done. Now I think you should leave. As they filed out, shock evident on their faces, I turned to my mother. Tears glistened in her eyes, but she was smiling. I'm proud of you, sweetheart, she said, pulling me into a hug. I hugged her back, my mind already racing with possibilities. This wasn't the end. It was a new beginning. And for the first time in years, I felt truly free. But as I closed the door behind my now ex-husband and former mother-in-law, I knew this was far from over. Clara wouldn't give up easily. I'd have to be smart, be prepared. The battle for my inheritance and my freedom had only just begun. The days following my decision to divorce Richard were a whirlwind of emotions and planning. I'd moved in with my mother temporarily, but I knew I needed a long-term strategy. As I sat at Ella's kitchen table, sipping coffee and scrolling through apartment listings, my phone buzzed. Richard's name flashed on the screen. With trembling hands, I answered. Hello. Amelia. Richard's voice was strained. We need to talk. Can you come to the house? I hesitated, my instincts screaming caution. I don't think that's a good idea, Richard. Please, he said, his tone softening. I've been thinking. Maybe I was too hasty. We should discuss this inheritance situation rationally. My heart skipped a beat. Was he having second thoughts about the divorce? Part of me, the part that still loved the man I'd married, wanted to believe him. But the stronger, wiser part remembered the years of manipulation and neglect. All right, I said finally. I'll come by this afternoon. As I pulled into the driveway of what was once our home, I saw not only Richard's car but Clara's as well. My stomach churned with anxiety, but I steeled myself and walked to the door. Richard answered, his face a mask of contrition. Amelia, thank you for coming. Please come in. I stepped inside, immediately spotting Clara in the living room. Her smile was saccharine sweet, setting off alarm bells in my head. Amelia, darling, she cooed. We've all been so foolish, haven't we? Fighting over money when family is what truly matters. I remained silent, waiting for the other shoe to drop. Richard cleared his throat. We've been talking and, well, we think we can come to an arrangement that benefits everyone. What kind of arrangement? I asked cautiously. Clara leaned forward, her eyes gleaming. It's simple, dear. You agree to put the inheritance in a joint account. For the family's use, of course, and Richard will tear up those nasty divorce papers. We'll all be one big happy family again. I stared at them, momentarily speechless. The audacity, the sheer manipulative gall of it all was breathtaking. You can't be serious, I finally managed. Richard stepped closer, his voice low and urgent. Think about it, Amelia. This is our chance to start over. No more fighting, no more resentment. We can be happy again. For a fleeting moment, I saw a glimpse of the man I'd fallen in love with. But then I looked into his eyes and saw the truth. This wasn't about reconciliation. This was about control. In that instant, I made a decision that would change everything. I smiled, watching as relief washed over their faces. You know what? You're right. Family is what matters. Clara clapped her hands together. Oh, I knew you'd see reason, dear. I'll transfer the money tomorrow, I said, my voice steady. On one condition. Richard raised an eyebrow. What's that? I want us all to go on a family vacation. To celebrate our reconciliation. The lie tasted bitter on my tongue, but I forced myself to continue. My treat, of course. We can use some of the inheritance money. Clara's eyes lit up at the prospect of a lavish trip. Richard, however, looked suspicious. A vacation? Is that really necessary? I reached out, taking his hand in mine. I think it's exactly what we need. A chance to reconnect, away from all the stress here. What do you say? After a moment's hesitation, Richard nodded. All right. A vacation it is. As I left the house, my heart was pounding. I'd bought myself some time, but I knew the real challenge was just beginning. I had to be smarter, more cunning than they were. Sitting in my car, I pulled out my phone and dialed my mother. Mom, I need your help. It's time to put our plan into action. The game had changed and I was determined to win. Not just for myself, but for every woman who'd ever been controlled and manipulated by people like Clara and Richard. It was time to take back my life, once and for all. The day of Clara and George's departure for their birthday trip arrived, and I felt a mix of anticipation and dread. I'd spent weeks carefully laying the groundwork for my plan, playing the part of the dutiful daughter-in-law to perfection. Now it was time to set everything in motion. As I helped Clara pack her designer luggage, she prattled on about the luxurious resort Richard had booked for them. It's so thoughtful of Richard to plan this trip, she said, her eyes gleaming. You know, Amelia, I'm glad you've come to your senses about the inheritance. Family truly comes first. I forced a smile, swallowing the bitter retort that threatened to escape. Of course, Clara. I understand that now. Once they were gone, the house felt eerily quiet. Richard was at work, leaving me alone with my thoughts and plans. I moved quickly, gathering the documents I'd carefully hidden over the past weeks. Bank statements, property deeds, and most importantly, the paperwork for my inheritance. As I spread everything out on the dining room table, my phone buzzed. It was my mother. Is everything okay, sweetheart? She asked, concern evident in her voice. It's fine, Mom, I assured her. I'm just getting everything ready. Are you sure about this? Absolutely, she replied firmly. Your father wanted you to be happy, Amelia. This is what he would have wanted. Bolstered by her support, I set to work. Hours passed as I made calls, filled out forms, and transferred funds. By late afternoon, I was exhausted but exhilarated. Everything was in place. The sound of a car in the driveway made me freeze. Richard wasn't supposed to be home for hours. Panic gripped me as I scrambled to gather the papers strewn across the table. The front door opened and Richard's voice called out, Amelia? Are you home? In here, I replied, my heart pounding as I shoved the last of the documents into a folder. Richard appeared in the doorway, his brow furrowed. What are you doing? What's all this? I took a deep breath, steeling myself. Richard, we need to talk. His eyes narrowed as he approached the table. Are those bank statements? What's going on, Amelia? In that moment, I knew I had to make a choice. I could lie, try to maintain the charade a little longer. Or I could seize this moment and finally stand up for myself. I'm leaving, Richard, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. I've transferred my inheritance to a new account, one that you and your mother can't access. Richard's face contorted with rage. You what? How dare you? That money belongs to our family. No, I countered, standing my ground. It belongs to me. My father left it to me, not to your mother's social climbing or your blind obedience. He lunged forward, grabbing for the folder in my hands. "You can't do this, Amelia. I won't let you." We struggled, papers scattering across the floor. In the chaos, I saw a side of Richard I'd never seen before, desperate, almost feral. It was terrifying, but it also confirmed what I'd known deep down for years. This man wasn't my partner. He was my jailer. With a burst of strength I didn't know I possessed, I wrenched myself free. "It's done, Richard," I said, breathing heavily. "The divorce papers are filed. The money is secure. It's over." Richard stared at me, his face a mask of disbelief and fury. "You'll regret this," he snarled. "You're nothing without us, Amelia. Nothing." As he stormed out of the room, slamming doors in his wake, I sank to the floor, surrounded by the scattered remnants of my old life. I was shaking, but underneath the fear and adrenaline, I felt something else, pride. I'd done it. I'd stood up to Richard, to Clara, to years of manipulation and control. But as I heard Richard's angry voice on the phone, no doubt calling his mother, I knew this was far from over. The real battle was just beginning, and I had to be ready for whatever came next. The house was eerily quiet as I moved from room to room, packing my life into boxes. Each item I touched held memories, some bitter, some sweet. The wedding photo I'd once cherished now felt like a mockery. I left it face down on the dresser. My phone buzzed incessantly. Missed calls from Richard, voicemails from Clara. I ignored them all, focusing on the task at hand. I had to be out before they returned. As I sealed the last box, a car door slammed outside. My heart leaped into my throat. They weren't supposed to be back for days. Panic gripped me as I peered through the curtains. Richard's car was in the driveway, and he was storming towards the house, Clara close behind. I had minutes, maybe seconds. Grabbing my bags and the box containing my most important possessions, I headed for the back door. But as I reached for the handle, it swung open. Richard stood there, his face contorted with rage. "Going somewhere, Amelia?" I stumbled back, my mind racing. "Richard, Save it," he snarled, pushing past me into the kitchen. Clara followed, her eyes cold and calculating. "Did you really think you could outsmart us, dear?" Clara's voice dripped with disdain. "That money belongs to this family. To us." I straightened my spine, finding strength I didn't know I had. "No, Clara. It belongs to me. My father left it to me, not to you or your social climbing ambitions." Richard slammed his fist on the counter, making me flinch. "Enough. You ungrateful, scheming." "That's enough, Richard." A new voice cut through the tension. We all turned to see my mother, Ella, standing in the doorway, a determined look on her face. "Mom!" I gasped. "What are you doing here?" Ella stepped into the kitchen, placing herself between me and my in-laws. "I'm here to help my daughter leave this toxic environment. And don't even think about trying to stop us." Clara laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. "Oh, how touching. The cavalry has arrived. But it changes nothing. That money is ours, and Amelia isn't going anywhere." "Actually," I said, my voice steadier than I felt, "I am. The divorce papers are filed, the money is secure, and I'm leaving. Right now." Richard lunged forward, but Ella was quicker. She grabbed my arm, pulling me towards the door. "Run, Amelia. Go!" Everything happened in a blur. We raced to my mother's car, throwing my belongings in the back. Richard and Clara's shouts echoed behind us as we peeled out of the driveway. As we sped away, I finally let out the breath I'd been holding. "Mom, I can't believe you came. How did you know?" Ella smiled, her eyes on the road ahead. "A mother always knows, sweetheart. And I wasn't about to let you face them alone." Tears stung my eyes, tears of relief, of gratitude, of the overwhelming emotions of the past few hours. "What do we do now?" "Now," Ella said firmly, "we start your new life. Together." As we drove, my phone buzzed again. A text from Richard. "This isn't over, Amelia. You'll regret this." I stared at the message, a mix of fear and determination coursing through me. He was right about one thing. This wasn't over. But for the first time in years, I felt ready to face whatever came next. We pulled into a small motel on the outskirts of town. As I settled into the room, exhaustion hit me like a wave. But underneath the fatigue, I felt something else stirring: hope. I looked at my mother, who was unpacking some essentials. "Mom, I'm scared. What if they come after us? What if they try to take the money?" Ella sat beside me, taking my hands in hers. "Then we'll face it together, Amelia. You're stronger than you know. Your father knew it, and I know it too. This is your chance to build the life you deserve." As I lay in bed that night, listening to the unfamiliar sounds of the motel, I knew tomorrow would bring new challenges. But I also knew I wasn't facing them alone. With my mother's support and my father's gift, I had a chance at a new beginning. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in years, I was ready to walk it on my own terms. The sun streamed through the windows of my new home, casting a warm glow on the freshly painted walls. It had been 6 months since I'd left Richard and Clara behind, and every day felt like a breath of fresh air. "Amelia, honey, where do you want these photo albums?" My mother's voice called from the hallway. I smiled, walking over to help her. "Let's put them in the study, Mom. I want to go through them later." As we arranged the books on the shelves, I caught sight of my reflection in the window. I hardly recognized the woman staring back at me. Confident, relaxed, happy. It was a far cry from the shell of a person I'd been just months ago. The shrill ring of my phone cut through the peaceful moment. I froze when I saw the caller ID, Richard. "You don't have to answer that," Ella said softly, squeezing my arm. I took a deep breath. "No, I think I do. It's time to end this once and for all." With trembling fingers, I answered the call. "Hello, Richard." "Amelia." His voice was strained, almost desperate. "We need to talk. Things have changed. I've been thinking about us, about everything that happened. Maybe we could." "Stop right there," I interrupted, my voice steadier than I felt. "There is no us anymore, Richard. The divorce is final. I've moved on. But the money is mine," I said firmly. "Left to me by my father. It's not up for discussion." There was a long pause. When Richard spoke again, his tone had shifted from pleading to bitter. "You think you've won, don't you? But you have no idea what you've done. My mother, she's not well. The stress of all this has." "I'm sorry to hear that," I said, and I was surprised to find I meant it. "But Clara's well-being is not my responsibility. Neither is yours. My career is in shambles," Richard continued, his voice rising. "The scandal of the divorce, the rumors. Do you even care?" I closed my eyes, memories of years of neglect and manipulation flashing through my mind. "I do care, Richard, but not in the way you want me to. Your choices led you here, not mine. I chose to save myself. Amelia, please." "Goodbye, Richard," I said softly and ended the call. I stood there for a moment, my heart pounding. Then, slowly, a smile spread across my face. I felt lighter, as if the last chains of my past had finally fallen away. Ella wrapped her arm around me. "You okay, sweetheart?" I nodded, wiping away a stray tear. "I'm more than okay, Mom. I'm free." Over the next few weeks, I threw myself into building my new life. I joined a local art class, rekindled old friendships, and even started volunteering at an animal shelter. Each day brought new joys and discoveries. One sunny afternoon, as I sat in the garden with my mother, sipping iced tea and laughing about some long-forgotten family story, I had a sudden realization. "You know, Mom," I said, setting down my glass, "I think Dad knew exactly what he was doing when he left me that inheritance." Ella smiled, her eyes twinkling. "Your father was a wise man. He always said you had a strength in you that just needed the right moment to shine." I looked out over the blooming flowers, the peaceful neighborhood beyond. This was the life I'd always dreamed of but never thought I deserved. I just wish he could see me now. "Oh, sweetheart," Ella said, taking my hand. "I think he can, and I know he'd be so proud of the woman you've become." As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over our new home, I felt a profound sense of peace wash over me. The road had been long and painful, but every step had led me here, to freedom, to self-discovery, to a life filled with love and possibility. I thought of Richard and Clara, of the life I'd left behind, and felt only a distant pang of sadness. They had made their choices, just as I had made mine, and I knew without a doubt that I had chosen well. As I hugged my mother goodnight and climbed the stairs to my bedroom, I paused to look at a photo of my father on the wall. "Thank you, Dad," I whispered, touching the frame gently, "for everything." I fell asleep that night with a smile on my face, eager to see what new adventures tomorrow would bring. The future stretched out before me, bright and full of promise. A future I had fought for and won.